Hey folks, today is January 28th, 2020. My name is Rick Gordon, and this is Living the Bipolar Life. Today we're going to start a two-part series on the trials and tribulations of having bipolar disorder. First question that I have, which is a very important question to me, is have you ever had trouble holding down a relationship? And yes, for me, and yes, for most people that do have bipolar disorder. I have tried relationships. I've had people that lived with me, and they all ended up pretty bad. Either I kicked them out or they left screaming because they couldn't handle me. So, yes, I've had trouble, and I know some married couples that have separated due to the problem. Early on, after the onset of my bipolar disorder diagnoses, uh, I was very compliant about taking my medication, listening to what the doctor said. And then one day I just decided that I was in my early 20s. Who needed all this? Who in their early 20s could live out of a pill bottle? I thought it was more fun to go out drinking with my friends. And that's exactly what I did. I would go out drinking. I would come home 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, take my medication after drinking, and I may not get out of bed till 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But the bad thing about that was taking my medicine. Well, not really taking my medicine, but drinking would calm me down. And taking my medication with that was not the appropriate thing to do, and it was very dangerous for me to do. Mixing medications and alcohol is just not the answer for anyone. After doing a little research, according to the Mayo Clinic, people do use alcohol and other drugs to ease the symptoms of depression, anxiety, and other symptoms of bipolar disorder. Drinking may seem to help, but in the long run, it makes symptoms worse. In order to cope with the symptoms, more and more alcohol and more drug use becomes prevalent. It becomes a vicious cycle that's difficult to overcome. Now, in my mid 20s, I joined AA and I joined NA, which is Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous. I even went into a rehab center for several weeks. I didn't think that alcohol was so much of a problem for me, but once I went into rehab, I found out it was a big problem for me. And I joined NA because a lot of people in AA would go to NA meetings because alcohol is a drug. Drugs were not my choice. I didn't really care to do drugs. I had seen a lot of fatalities with people doing various type of drugs. But I would go to the meetings and sit in and I would talk about what my life was like and talk about what my day was like and what it felt like to not have alcohol that day. But then I found out there were people that was in so much worse condition than I was. And after meeting some of these people, a lot of them were bipolar, and alcohol became their drug of choice. And while in my early to mid 20s, I had seen 5 different psychiatrists. Finding a good doctor is the hardest thing to do. But I finally found one that seemed to care about me, and he knew his medications. But the problem is I wouldn't listen to him, and I continued drinking and continued not following his advice. One day I went into his office and I was asking for a different antidepressant, which I had done that 2 or 3 times, telling him that I was getting no relief. I asked for more anxiety medicine because I was just anxious all the time. Plus, I was giving away some of them pills to friends just for party purposes, but uh, he just blatantly fired me. He said, just get out of my office, don't come back. He said, if you can't listen to me, then there's no reason for him to continue seeing me. And I think that was a wake up call in some ways, but then other ways it hurt me because I started drinking again and I started drinking more heavily. I had finally gotten a good job as a teacher in a local middle school and loved that job. And one day, after 2 or 3 years of working there, let's see, 4 years I worked there for the school system, and I got fired for making a big mistake. And so that depressed me a lot, and I was out of work for a couple years. I took a job as a custodial worker for someone and really demeaned myself. You know, with a college education and the only thing you can do is custodial work, it's not the best feeling in the world. But finally, a job opportunity came up for me that I really enjoyed. I was approached by a company, and they were a Fortune 500 company, and they hired me as a Secretary of Operations, which was a very good job, and which paid well. And after I was there a while, they promoted me to corporate trainer. And with that title, I got to fly around the United States training other people to do their job more effectively. And one day, I was there by myself. My boss was gone, which put me next in command. And I had been up partying the night before and took my meds very late at night, and I was so sleepy. My head just kept falling just like that. So I decided to go into the conference room and lay my head down for a few minutes. Well, I had one other girl working in the shipping department, and I had a temp employee working in the shipping department. But I told them, I was like, if you need me, you come and get me. The phone's beside me. I'll just rest for about 15 minutes. Well, the girl, she never said a word to me. And the next day, my boss came in and he says, did you sleep in the conference room when you were supposed to be working? And I said, yes, I did. I laid my head down for a few minutes. He said, did you clock out? And I says, no, I did not.
Sorry, I can't manage clocks here. You can do it in the clock app.
Don't you just love those little phones and things? Uh, so I told him, no, I did not clock out. And he says, well, we also found out that you made a large purchase on the company credit card. And I said, yes, I did. There was no sense in lying to him. And I says, and I have been paying on that. He says, that's beside the point. You spent money that was not yours. You have done wrong, therefore you're fired. Well, 6 years of college, 2 great jobs, down the drain. Would I ever have a good job again? I didn't know. But we will pick up on this next time, and you'll find out what happened after I got fired from that particular job. Everybody have a nice day, and Rick out.